all do right now is recognize that 2022 is a change year. It is happening as we speak every single day. And the end of this year is going to look nothing like what it looks like right now, because these things are happening globally on a very rapid and fast pace. And, we just had recently the 4th of July, our birthday celebration for America, the birth of our independence from England. And I think maybe it's time for some more independence again. Do we have too much tax policy? If we can afford to send so much money to all these other countries, are we being taxed too much? How do we afford to have all this money to send to all these other countries when we don't even afford to take care of our own homeless population and population that's hungry here? I don't know. I worry about all these world problems, but mostly I'm concerned about the health and the safety of the United States dollar and how that will impact the United States with this situation. We really have 3 potential military conflicts that are potentially ready to pop onto the scene. We could obviously have the most clear one, which would be a military escalation of Russia versus NATO, which is a big problem because, Putin has already made statements stating that if America does certain things, he will take those actions as an act of war directly against Russia. And I don't know that he would be wrong in that sense. I mean, how long can we pretend like we're not actually fighting Russia by sending just all of our equipment and troops to the Ukraine? I don't understand that, or at least we send just the money. So obviously there's no troops that are actively engaged. I'm not saying that there are. I'm saying there have been troops that have been deployed on a pause, a peacekeeping pause. So Russia, Ukraine, obviously NATO, Russia, U.S., Russia, that could be a thing. Iran and Israel, clearly. And then we obviously have the information that's come out of China that it seems like they're readying a military force to potentially look at going into Taiwan. I mean, why do you think that they're directing these planes to fly in the no-fly zone over and over and over? So any kind of military escalation on top of what's already happened with Russia and the SWIFT system and Russia, China, and the BRICS nations is what is a really big problem. We need to try to maintain calm as much as possible, because any kind of military escalation breakout, unfortunately, will really bring a lot of economic consequences very, very quickly. So it's a difficult time that we're still going through. And if you do not have a professional advisor, you really need, a lot of people, rightfully so, self-managed since 2009. Really from 2009 to 2020, you could throw a pin at a dart and hit a winner, because we had so much stimulus coming in, and we had true, actual GDP growth as well, with all kinds of, that's where all the social media companies IPO'd. They were started maybe earlier, but they IPO'd like 2004 to 2008, 2012. So they started earlier, but then they IPO'd in that time frame. So you have all of the major social media companies IPO in that time frame. So we definitely had that. We definitely had biopharma. We definitely had a lot of things that did bring up the GDP of the market these last 12 years. But for the most part, we also never ended our QE, quantitative easing, stimulus, Federal Reserve policy. And we just printed so much money in the last 12 years. And you can see the M1 money supply is really stable from the 60s all the way through 2008. And in 2008 to 2020, it starts on this slow trajectory up. So we started getting used to kind of MMT and quantitative easing. And then when coronavirus happened in 2020, we just went full force MMT. And just, I think we increased the money supply, the M1 money supply in the United States by $5 trillion in 7 months. In 7 months, we increased the M1 money supply by $5 trillion. You have to understand the level of mathematical experiment that was. We had never done anything even close to that, in the history of recorded time. So the United States basically created and or authorized 10 trillion, and the rest of the world did 20 trillion. So that's $30 trillion globally that has been promulgated since 2020. It's unfathomable. And this is why we have super high inflation. And when you add in food and energy, and you don't look at just core CPI, but you add in food and energy, you've got double-digit inflation. So these are trying times that require really somebody who looks at the global factors, understands and sees what's coming, knows where we could potentially just even protect ourselves or just keep away from the losses. So I would encourage you, since I cannot give a solutions and advice on a public forum, to definitely go and talk to a professional, because these are not the times to not know that you're in the right place and that you